Hi, this is Coach Ritteman from Johnson High School, and you're listening to Beacon Radio.
We're talking to Dallas Jenkins. We're talking about the Resurrection of Gavin Stone. Great movie, great message, but just also fun and comical and fun. It's just a really good movie, and I'm grateful for Dallas doing that. Dallas, I've got a question for you just about like when you do get to work with these non-Christian actors, like you're talking about Brett Dalton. Do they ever come back and say to you, "Hey, man, this feels different"? Or does anybody ever say like just working with you guys is a little bit different, or do you not hear that message from?
No, we hear that all the time, and I think that's one of the most rewarding things that we do is just even the fact of just making sure your check's clear and making sure that you tell the truth and being kind and generous and and professional. I mean, that's another thing is really we. Well, once the day starts, we're making a movie. We're doing our job, and then when the day is over, then we're trying to make friends and have relationships, and that's something that's somewhat rare in this business. Sometimes it's hard to find people you can truly trust, and so we've heard over the 20 years of doing this, dozens and dozens and dozens of times, just hearing this felt different. Being on this set just felt different, and then it of course opens us up to just be able to be closer friends and ultimately have a strong relationship.
And that is just awesome. All right, we're talking to Dallas Jenkins. The movie is The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. I want you to get it. It's available May 2nd, DVD and Blu-ray. I've got a couple copies that I can give away, so you can email me, steve@sabeacon.com, steve@sabeacon.com. I asked Dallas earlier for a favorite movie and a favorite comic, so if you heard that, the movie, give me another favorite movie of yours, Dallas.
Well, the movie that ultimately made me want to make movies. Yeah. I mean, I was a jock. I was kind of a jock growing up. I mean, I was maybe not always successfully, but I was an athlete. And when I was in ninth grade, I saw on television the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. And I watched that movie and thought, that's what I want to do. If I can arouse in people the kind of emotions that movie aroused in me, I could really have an impact. And so, that's the movie that made me want to make movies. And so, there's tons of movies that I would consider my favorites. I mean, but that movie is the one that made me want to make movies. And then It's a Wonderful Life is the movie that I'm trying to make my whole life. Just if I can ever make a movie that's half as good as that, I'll be able to retire.
Right, exactly. We're talking to Dallas Jenkins, director of The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. You do know his family. It's like a family business. Jerry Jenkins, prolific author, the Left Behind series, but so much more. I mean, he's an amazing author, and I've been blessed to learn from your dad, and I've been blessed, Dallas, by your films. We're talking about this very funny movie, The Resurrection of Gavin Stone, and I want to talk about just some of the reaction that you're getting from audiences. I want our people to understand the impact that The Resurrection of Gavin Stone is making. Dallas, share with us in the last minute or two we've got. What are you hearing from people? What's the reaction?
Well, this is what's been so cool about it is we have heard over and over through whether it's from letters or anonymous comment cards after screenings, or even people who came up to me, who found out that I was the director and maybe I was at a screening and they came up to me through tears. I had someone come up to me, this has happened multiple times, through tears saying, I haven't been to church in years. This movie made me want to come back.
Wow.
And last night I was at a screening where a church had hosted just kind of their own screening. They rented out a theater and push their people. Bring a friend. Bring someone who doesn't necessarily come to church, but who you might want to get to come to this movie. And again, over and over, saying, I was skeptical. I didn't really want to see this movie. I don't like Christian movies, or I don't want to be preached at. And but this movie made me laugh and made me cry. And again, if there was a church, if I can find a church like the one in this movie, I will go. And so, I think for the Christian audience, recognizing that getting this DVD is first and foremost, obviously, I want to enjoy the movie and I want to see my life portrayed accurately on screen as a churchgoer, but this movie is to be shared. Because this is, I think, one thing that's unique about this film is that it's specifically because the main character is an outsider. Church outsiders can identify and see the story and ultimately see the impact through his eyes. And if we can, I think this movie is essentially a commercial for the power and the impact of church. And so if we can use it to that end, we may just be able to kind of rewrite the story of how church is perceived in America.
Right, I love that. And as let me ask you this: as we're moving to it being available on DVD and Blu-ray, does that mean churches will not be like renting out theaters, or is that still an opportunity that people can do, or what do you suggest?
Oh, they still can. Yeah, I mean, if you want to host a screening, at a local theater, which is the best way, because especially for a comedy and especially for a movie with this kind of emotion, which I think one of the cool things I'm happy about is not only do we see groups of people belly laughing during the movie, but then at the end, you see people walking out wiping tears from their eyes,
right,
over and over again. And so, but it plays best in a group. And so, at any point, a church can go to tugg.com, TUGG.com, and you can actually bring the movie to your local theater and even make a little money, because they let you, if you're the host, you can actually get a little bit of a percentage of the ticket sales. But ultimately, that's the greatest way to do this, is to have a church event. And then once it comes out on, once it is on DVD, also there are ways to get a public performance license and host a screening in your own church building too. And so, but I think, that experience at the theater, if you missed it the first time around when it was in theaters, that experience is tough to replicate. And if you can do it, it's not always easy to get people to come to church, but you can get them to come to a movie.
Right, absolutely. All right, Dallas Jenkins, director of the Resurrection of Gavin Stone, we're so grateful that you're doing this. You're making an incredible impact. I bet you don't even with the feedback you're getting, you can't imagine just how powerful it is. So we are grateful for your ministry and the skill with which you do it. I mean, it's just really great. So, man, I'm looking forward to your next upcoming projects, but I'm excited about right now the Resurrection of Gavin Stone. Is the website resurrectionofgavinstonemovie.com? Is that still the place to go? Or is
that's the main website, but I think for people, that's sometimes easy to forget. If you just look up Resurrection of Gavin Stone online, very easy to find. And then, of course, on social media, you see the trailers, the behind-the-scenes, photos, lots of special, cool stuff. And that's also good to share, because, it gets into the meaning and the film. And the DVD actually has some extras that are really cool. One of them is an interview between Pastor James McDonald, who's my pastor and one of the more prominent pastors in the country, has a TV and radio ministry. He interviewed the stars of the film about the themes of the film. And so that's something that is only available on the DVD, where you can really get into their backstories, their, for example, Shawn Michaels, especially one of the most famous WWE wrestlers of all time, has an incredible faith journey.
Wow.
But you hear from Angela Johnson and Brett Dalton and Shawn Michaels about the themes of the movie, and it's really instructional and helpful to not only to understand the movie better, but to understand how to share it.
Right. Well, that's awesome. And it is really cool what you guys are doing at Harvest Bible Chapel. I mean, you're now the executive director of Vertical Church Media, and I think that's awesome. And hopefully we get to talk to you again and hear about how that is, because I'd love to see more churches do what it sounds like James McDonald and Harvest Bible Chapel, you guys are doing. So that's awesome. Dallas, thank you so much for your time and all that you're doing, impacting the world. The movie is The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. You're going to laugh, and I don't like to admit when I tear up, but I did. And I had a great time. My wife and I did. So y'all want to get a hold of this, and tugg.com. Was that right? TUGG.com? Did I get that right?
That's where you can get where you can bring the movie to your local theater
if you want to do that
for group showings.
All right, Dallas. Thanks again. Any last messages for our listeners?
I think ultimately this is a movie to not only appreciate yourself as a churchgoer, but to share, because it really is something that I think can have an impact.
Awesome. All right, Dallas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, God bless you. Thanks again.
Man, really appreciate it, Dallas. This is Beacon Radio. I'm your host, Steve Teel, delivering hope, inspiration, and change. We'll be right back.
God loves to include us in what He's doing. In fact, every day with God is kind of like take your kid to work day. He just loves to do things with us. I want to share with you a simple way to position your life so that God can include you. It's called Prayer, Care, Share. It's simple, and here's how you do it. You first begin to pray consistently for 4 or 5 people in your life. Just bring their names before the Lord and ask Him to include you in blessing them. Then Look for ways to care genuinely for their needs, just ways to make their day better and to add value to their lives. When you consistently pray and care for people, almost 100% of the time, God will create an opportunity for you to share something of His love and encouragement with that person. It'll be powerful, it'll be personal, and it will be natural for you. So let's start praying and caring and sharing and watch God include us. Hey, this is Pastor Kirk Freeman. Check out our website at crossbridgecommunitychurch.com.
Join us every Saturday at noon for Beacon Radio on AM 630, The Word. Steve Teel talks to difference makers like Javier Galaban of Radio Luz, Jim Falk and Bobby Coher of FCA, Carol Wilson of Project Red El Salvador, and singers Jackie Velasquez, Phil Wickham, Matthew West, Abby Grimaldi, Big Daddy Weave, and authors like Cold Case Christianity author J. Warren Wallace and the Shack's William Paul Young. Join Steve every Saturday at noon on AM 630, The Word.
Beacon Radio, Steve Teel here. Had fun time talking with Dallas Jenkins. That was really cool. And don't forget, you can email me, steve@sabeacon.com. I'm going to give away a couple of those DVDs. I just want to know kind of the magic word, one of his two favorite movies or his favorite comedian. If you'll include that, we're going to draw names, and we would love to send out a DVD. Now, it is Mother's Day weekend, and if you listen to the show frequently, you know how Roland and I sign off at the end of the show. I tell you every week to seek God and remember what Mom says, be a blessing. And I've got my mom as a guest today. Mom, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Steve?
Well, I'm doing awesome. I get to talk to you, and that's always a very special event.
It's a treat for me, too.
All right. Well, Mom, and my mom and Dad live up in Amarillo, Texas, and what my mom has taught me over the years, be a blessing. It really has stuck with me. Now, when I was growing up, Mom, do you remember any occasion where you had to play the Be a Blessing card? Can you remember any of those?
I remember one in particular, and I think you were in about sixth grade, maybe. We were out in California.
Right.
And I think you were concerned about a test or about a person in the class, or I can't even remember what the problem was.
Yeah.
But we talked about being a blessing. If you're worried about the test, there's somebody else in your classroom that's more worried than you are. So be a blessing to that person and look for anybody that is needing a smile or some joy before the test. Something along that line. Be a blessing.
Right. Well, and I can tell our listeners some of those examples, and then I want to ask you where that came for you, because I know where it came from me is from you. But let me tell our listeners a few different times, and it's come through in life a lot, and we pass it along to our kids as well. I do remember, and one other thing about my mom, my dad was in the Army, in the infantry, 29 years. And my mom was a great military wife, so supportive, and yet, just such a great mom to my sister Kathy and myself. And so my dad, when he was stationed in Fort Ord, California, and so he often had to be out in the field, training exercises and everything. He was a great dad, but you guys know how the military is. I mean, those are jobs you do. So my dad was a great baseball player. He played at OU, which is one of the reasons, Roland, that I'm a Sooner, just one of them. But he was a very good baseball pitcher, and when I was doing Little League, I was a pretty decent pitcher, nothing like Dad, but that's all right. I was good enough. I had that curveball. And with I had a love-hate relationship with pitching. I really enjoyed it, but I also got really nervous, and so before games, if I was pitching, I would get sick. And so I remember, Mom, we've told the story before, but you would say, well, Steve, do you want me to play catch with you to warm you up? So we would go, and my mom and I, we'd get in the backyard and just throw the baseball around, and just doing that would help kind of calm my nerves. And that's just the kind of mom, you have been and always have been. You're just so loving and so sacrificial and just will do anything for your kids. And I am really appreciative of that. And I want to say one other thing, and I know I'm supposed to be having a conversation with my mom, but it's Mother's Day weekend, so this is a little love note to my mom as well. My mom, when I was, we grew up in the church. It was always very important to my mom and dad that wherever we lived, from Fort Ord, California, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, then my dad was at the Pentagon and War College. Yes, that's a thing in D.C., and it was always just very important that we found a church to my mom and dad that kind of worked for them, but also especially for my sister Kathy and myself. And so during those times, I really started to feel, that I knew about Jesus, but I didn't really know Jesus. I didn't have a relationship. Well, I'm really grateful my mom was kind of my theologian, helping me to understand the Bible. And part of what you did was, you had these cassette tapes from First United Methodist Church in Tulsa with Dr. Thomas, and I would listen to those, and I would grow in my understanding. And there was a great Bible teacher who I really loved back in Northern Virginia. I think you used to go to his Bible study, Father John Howe, I think, right? Yes. Is that John Howe? And I mean, just a great, great teacher. And anyway, so I thank you. I mean, you really taught me the faith, and by your example and by your life, you taught me it's not what you know, it is who you know. And so I'm eternally grateful for that. So thank you. I love you. Happy Mother's Day a day early, or so. And let me ask you, Mom, where I don't even remember if there's a story. Where did someone first tell you to be a blessing, or how did this happen for you?
I think, Steve, that I must have been in the Bible study, and I can't pinpoint, the year, like even if you were born yet. But we were studying, it was one of those in-depth studies, and we were, I think, you know me, I never can remember addresses on scriptures. But I think it had to have been in Genesis, because it was where God was talking to Abraham about all the things he was going to do to bless him. And the last, after the comma was, and you will bless others. And that particular, I don't even think I heard the rest of the Bible study, because I really was running that through my mind. I had never really seen the real message for me, Barbara, was you have been blessed. Now, are you blessing others?
Yeah.
And that's where Be a Blessing started for me. And I was I can't remember, it's been throughout my life, because as a military wife, we were moving a lot, changing homes, changing friends, changing schools, changing churches, and he helped me with the adjustment to every move by looking around for others who were new and concerned about school or their children or their church. And so it worked for me. He certainly has blessed me throughout my life, and he has given me that opportunity to get more of his peace and blessings by looking around for somebody that I can bless.
Right.
So that's where it started. And when I could see that you or Kathy had something that was kind of eating you up or whatever, then I started preaching at you.
Right. And, listeners, I got to tell you, I mean, when you're a teenager and you hear your mom, the last words as you're, catching the bus to school or whatever are, be a blessing. You don't always want to hear it. And And I mean, you're nice enough, but I think I can recall times of saying, I don't want to be a blessing. I'm not going to be a blessing. But, and yet then I would go to school, and I do remember one of the times in high school, I was at West Springfield High School in Northern Virginia, and we had a big, huge freshman speech presentation. And when you're a freshman, now I preach and I can't shut up, but back then I think it was like 10 to 12 minutes or something like that, and that just felt like it was an eternity. Might have only been 8 to 10, but anyway, I do remember that day. I mean, it was a big deal for everybody. Had to give a speech, and a few people would go a day, and I was very nervous. And of course, you said, be a blessing. There's someone else who's more nervous. And so that's exactly what I would try to do. And so it's great.
Good for you.
Well, you knew that. I mean, you've made such a great difference in my life. And I want to read to our listeners, because it's Genesis 12 when the Lord calls to Abram and says, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. And then God gave Abram a promise in 12:2. Listen to this. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. And so, Mom, thank you for just passing along just the heart of Scripture. And, of course, through Abram came the descendancy of David and then Jesus, and that is truly the way that God has blessed so many people, and that's the way we get to bless people today, by being the light and salt that Jesus calls us to be. So, Mom, I want to thank you so much. Your love for Jesus, your love for God, your love for us as kids, but also just your love for so many people is just an incredible example. And I'm just sorry I took up most of the time talking about you instead of just hearing from you. So maybe next Mother's Day we'll talk about how your faith all came about. But thank you for being a blessing. I sure do love you, Mom.
I sure do love you, Steve. That's you and Kathy are the only reason I'm a mom.
Well, you are a great, great mom, but you really are to so many people too, and just a great example. So we love you.
Well, thank you, honey. I love you.
And thanks for joining us on Beacon Radio.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go to break. I'll be right back with the wrap-up. That's Happy Mother's Day to my mom, and be sure to say Happy Mother's Day to your mom. And I'll give a shout-out not only to her, but to my wife and to my sister and to my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law. And, I mean, just so many women have really just been a blessing to me, and right there for sure is Mom. So love you. We'll be right back after this break.
In Steve Teel's novel, Joe Angel, The Guardian Games, Book 1, angels and demons battle inside the Alamo Dome with high stakes involved. These angel-demon challenges are part of the Guardian Games. High school senior Daniel Walsh's future is all set. He's a can't-miss baseball prospect, but his faith in Christ recently has just been striking out. When an angel with attitude invades Daniel's life, the tension and conflict escalates quickly. If Daniel experiences the Guardian Games at the Dome, could it empower his faith, or will he continue to resist and go his own way? Whatever he chooses, Daniel Walsh will impact eternity, either for good or for bad, in Joe Angel, The Guardian Games, Book 1. Available at Amazon, or email steve@sabeacon.com. New guests to Momentum Bible Church can get their signed copy for free Sundays at 10 a.m. See MomentumBibleChurch.com for directions, or email steve@sabeacon.com.
Listeners, Saturdays I get to talk to these great difference makers, and then on Sunday I get to pastor difference makers at Momentum Bible Church. Great people like our children's ministry leaders Rosie Carrasco, Anaya Smith, Hope Cornwell, my wife Chris, and many others loving and teaching kids. What a blessing. We meet at Cibolo Green Elementary School Sundays at 10 a.m. out by Johnson High School. MomentumBibleChurch.com has directions. Hope to see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Beacon Radio, Steve Teel here. Send me an email, steve@sabeacon.com. Tell me about your mom. I know it's not really fair. My mom is that wonderful, and man, she really is a blessing to me. What is your mom like? I know there's something you love about her. How has she blessed you? You can email me, steve@sabeacon.com, or you can go onto Facebook. You can find me, Steve Teel, and friend me, and I'll friend you back. I'll accept that, and we'll talk about moms. But she really is a blessing, and that is right out of the Bible. I mean, just God telling Abram, this is not just for you. This is not going to be just for Israel. This is going to be for all nations that I want to bless people. Way back in Genesis 12, God was talking about that. And, of course, for you and me and a lot of, just days, that just for me is, all right, who can I bless today? Who can I encourage? Who can I help? And there's just so many different ways to do that. So I pray that you're really thinking about how you can be a blessing. And I just love how God calls us to do that. God He doesn't want to just bless us just so we can sit back, just big fat fun and, just having a great time. He wants to bless us to bless others. So happy Mother's Day to my mom, and happy Mother's Day to all the women out there. You guys are just incredible and such a blessing. So thank you, and thank my wife, Chris, who is just a wonderful, wonderful mom to my kids, such an inspiration. So what a blessing. Thank you. Love you too, and happy Mother's Day to you. All right, for this week, I want to remind you, what are you doing to seek God? You got to seek God, either in the Word or in prayer. Seek God. He wants to talk to you and guide you. And then I want to remind you with Roland, remember what Mom says. Be a blessing.